the owner absolutely refused. No, you are not changing the KFMB call letters. B100 was actually kind of a last-ditch effort at coming up with something. Calling it B100 was really, and that wasn't even the first choice, because it's not 100, it's 100.7.
And that is B100 San Diego radio DJ John Fox talking about how the name came about. Well, a little bit of a story right there. We're going to get into the rest of the story in just a little bit. I guess, sometimes you have listeners calling you up and talking with you as a DJ. Where was probably the most memorable listener you had, or listeners?
Oh, there's a couple of them. There was a guy who, obviously had some challenges, but he was a nice guy that used to call me up, particularly every Tuesday, because Wednesday was trash day, and he had to tell me that he'd taken out the trash. It was really very sweet. And we had this running joke that every time we'd tell the same joke to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, he said one day that he was kind of late putting out the trash,
mm-hmm.
and he had to run after them, or to make sure they took the trash can. And he said, "Yeah, you got room?" And I said, "What do they say? Hop in?" So we'd tell each other that joke every week, and he'd always laugh his head off. "Yeah, you got room for one more? Yeah, hop in." He just thought that was hilarious.
And then,
there was also a lady in Pacific Beach. I don't think she was elderly, but she was certainly older than me, and probably at least middle-aged. But she would call me multiple times all night long. And I finally asked her, "Don't you ever sleep?" And she says, "I try." But she told me the story about how she had arthritis, a particular type of arthritis that just prevented her from sleeping ever more than like 20, 30 minutes at a time.
Mm.
So she was constantly up all night and just appreciated having somebody to talk to in the middle of the night and listen to on the radio.
That's something that's missing these days, is overnights they just have music back to back and there's no live DJ. Sometimes there's not even a recorded DJ.
Yeah, and it's too bad. I mean, I understand the expense and the tight budgets these days, but it really is something special, because one of the great things about B100 is Bobby's philosophy always was, the format is there if you don't have a better idea. In other words, it's made to be broken. The format's made to be broken, which was, that's like, you're shipped off to Devil's Island for breaking the format some places. No, his philosophy was, it's only there if you don't have something better in mind. And so the middle of the night's the perfect time to experiment and screw around. And, I would do things like roll call,
mm-hmm.
And just everybody call in right now. Let's see who's listening. And I just say, "Hi, who's this? Yeah, where are you? Great. Moving on. Next." Just 3 seconds per call. Just go through about 20 of them just like that.
Wow. I like that idea. I mean, it's, and there was no delay, was there?
Well, there should have been, but no. I never did, at B100, I never did get burned with that. I got burned once in Anaheim.
Oh.
But it was another radio station calling just to give me a Baba Booey.
I remember quite of those, especially even on TV newscasts. And one time I think I was watching NBC4 in Los Angeles. It was Paul Moyer and Colleen Williams, and she was telling us, like, "Yes, caller, tell us what happened." And the guy he was just telling, and suddenly went, "Baba Booey," and then Colleen Williams was like, "Okay," and she hadn't a clue what, the guy was talking about, but Paul Moyer did. It's like, never mind, Colleen, don't answer that.
Well, this wasn't actually, somebody doing an actual Baba Booey. It was another radio guy.
Oh.
I've forgotten, shoot. What was that team that did mornings for a while at K-Earth?
Oh, London and Engelman?
Yeah, it was John London.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Or it was somebody from his staff, I don't know. And so, they get on and drop a plug for John London, something like John London's a lot better, or John London, something about John London. And I just said, who? And hung up.
And you went from KFMB B100, which was also called KFMB-FM, San Diego, to differentiate.
If you're going to do that, say it right. KFMB-FM, San Diego.
All right. I'm glad you said that, because I just remember reading about it, separating the letters, and stuff. In fact,
you have to emphasize the B, because it was B100.
Oh, okay. Because a couple of years ago, 100.7 actually billed itself exactly as the format. I think it was after it was the Jack FM format. I forget what the format was after that, but KFMB-FM was the moniker for it for a while.
Yeah. That was called making chicken salad out of what. Bobby at the time, it was KFMB AM/FM and TV. I almost used a Hudson and Bauer joke. They always called it KFMB AM/FM and BM. But it was the three stations, all with the same call letters, and the only one in San Diego that was like that at the time. There were only 2 triple combos, and that was the only one that used its call letters on all 3. Bobby wanted to change the call letters to something involving Q, because we were taking on KCBQ, and he was hoping to benefit from the confusion. But the owner absolutely refused. No, you are not changing the KFMB call letters. So that was B100 was actually kind of a last-ditch effort at coming up with something. And calling it B100 was really, and that wasn't even the first choice, because it's not 100, it's 100.7, which, if anything, is closer to 101. So, obviously you should call it B101. But KGB was 101. They're 101.5, but they called themselves the 101 KGB. So you couldn't use B101. So that's how it ended up being B100.
Wow. In fact,
and why you had to emphasize the B when giving the legal calls.
There you go. Wow.
Which was the only time ever that you said KFMB on the FM.
Back then I know that for a while, originally in radio, you had to give the legal ID twice an hour. By the time you were on there, was it just the top of the hour that you were required to give the KFMB?
Just top of the hour, as close as practical.
Oh, okay. And you, the live DJ, said it wasn't some imaging voice that did that.
By the 80s, we did have a pre-recorded ID, but in the early years of B100, no, it was live with the DJ.
Did you ever get any musicians coming into studio with you? I mean, you were doing overnights, but ever during your shift did a famous singer or band come in and visit you?
I never did on the show. I was there one day when John Mellencamp stopped by, and we had a nice chat. It was the day that Billy Joel crashed his motorcycle and got rather badly injured. This probably would have been, I don't know, around 80, 82, something like that. And and I, in our conversation, I found out that John liked motorcycles as well, and I happened to mention that Billy Joel had just crashed. He didn't know that, so we put in a call to Billy Joel to wish him well. And we had kind of a nice afternoon. I ended up taking him to a biker bar down in Pacific Beach and had a great time. Wow,
that's great. And then in 1992, you moved over to 95.9 KEZY-FM for the next 7 years, which was located at 1190 Ball Road in Anaheim. Tell us how you got to KEZY.
I had been doing traffic for Metro in San Diego, which was actually kind of an interesting experience. Tommy Sarmiento from KCBQ was managing it at the time, and Russ Whitberger, who'd been sales manager out of Q, was the business side of it. And Metro had there was two traffic, and this is something, if anybody listening says, what the heck is this all about? Back in the day, traffic reports on the radio were huge, long before Garmin and, Google Maps and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're developed services, and Metro was one of them. We had probably, 10 stations in town. And there'd be about maybe 4 reporters during the drive hours and maybe 2 in off hours. And you had to rotate between the stations. So it was kind of interesting trying to, time your reports to match the time the radio station client needed you.
Mm.
There was a light system that would, a light would come on in the station studio saying the traffic reporter was ready. Or they could call Metro, and our, runner on the floor would find out what they needed. Like, if you knew you were going to be like 5 minutes late on the traffic report, you'd call over to Metro and say, "Hey, I need him to come in at 37 instead of 32."
Mm.
And we would just try to work it out. Sometimes you'd have to give it to a different reporter because it was going to crash into one of your other reports. There was one time I was doing, I think, 4 or 5 stations that day myself.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 or 2 of them were late, and then another one called and said, "I'm going to be like 4 minutes late." So I had to do things out of order, and I was literally slamming from one report to the next with no break in between. Normally you'd take a little time to chit-chat with the jock. I had to just do the report, get out of there, slam into the next one, do that report, and then blow right into the next one. It was really it's like being an air traffic controller. It was kind of exciting.
Yeah. And how often I guess it depended on the station, whether you would banter back and forth with the DJ on that particular station.
Yeah, some wanted it, some didn't. I think KGB, was it KGB or 91X? One of them was doing, must have been KGB, was doing kind of a bit where they were doing Confucius say jokes. and everybody was trying to call in with the best Confucius say joke. And so they just wrapped up a set of that and said, "Okay, now let's go to John Fox for traffic." And I did my traffic report, and I wrapped it up and did my sign out and said, "And Confucius say, crowded elevators smell different to midget." They were not expecting it. It just totally broke them up. I think I may have won the contest, too.
What was your prize, a night for 2 at some restaurant nearby?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a free taco at Del Taco.
Actually, I'd take that right now, especially with the economy so bad. I'll take anything free. But that's cool. I mean, because sometimes I've been, at radio stations where the traffic reporter banters with the newscaster, but other times there's just kind of like, sometimes they'll just record the traffic themselves, even, not even talking because they can't. But yeah, that's really cool. So you're there for how long at Metro Traffic in San Diego?
Not that long. Just as a matter of fact, I think I got my part-time job at KEZY fairly soon after leaving B100, and it was only 1 day a week. So while I was doing that, I would stay in San Diego and do traffic during the week.
Mm.
So I didn't leave Metro until I went full-time at KEZY. So that was probably a year.
Okay. And it was interesting was, I guess, Midwest Television, the owner of KFMB, all the 3 stations KFMB, was doing cutbacks in 1992, and that's why you were let go from that station, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was the first to go, and I don't really know why, but I guess it was the one that would be noticed the least.
Mm.
But it ended up costing them a fortune. I think as far as trying to save money, they blew it big time. I had so much seniority, I got 8 months severance pay or something like that.
Wow. And then Mark Larson got let go not soon after that.
Yeah, several people ended up going. In fact, even the general manager, who'd been really, literally the brain behind everything, the guy who hired Mark, who hired Bobby, he even got let go, which was just incredibly foolish.
Did that general manager move to another station in San Diego? What was his name, by the way?
Paul Palmer. He passed away just a few years ago. Very well known and loved by not even just his own staff, but everybody in town.
How often did you keep in contact with Paul after that through the years?
Fairly often. As Bobby used to say, once you work for Paul, you always work for Paul. So he, we were in touch occasionally, and then when he went on to head up Big Brothers and Big Sisters of San Diego, there would be occasional, charity work he needed done. So you're back to working for Paul.
There you go. What was it about his management style that really stood out, that was cream of the crop?
He was very large and imposing, but well-spoken and clear-thinking, a good delegator, and I don't know, people just had confidence in him. He has a very interesting story. Back when he was in college, he got to interview the Beatles. So when we honored him at a reunion not too long ago, a year or two before he passed, we actually had the tapes of his interview with the Beatles, and he had gotten them to do liners. You know how you get artists to do liners for you? This is so-and-so of whatever group. I listen to KDUM. But he got them to do it. They were the first ones to do any liner for a radio station. It was his college station back east.
Wow.
I think he was 18 or 19 at the time when he interviewed them. This was in '64, their first trip over for the Ed Sullivan Show.
Oh, that's right, yeah. Man, that would have been good to have in the movie I Want to Hold Your Hand, that story, which came out about 13 years after the Beatles came to New York. And so I guess Paul saved a lot of his own air checks over the years, is my guess.
Yeah. He actually, I don't think, was ever on the air very much after college. He seemed to go straight into the business end of it. But
to get that, I mean, man, just wow. Did he have any pictures with the Beatles that they were able to find?
I don't remember. I think there might have been. I'll have to look for that. If we do, I have it, because I've got pretty much the archives for everything B100. We did a couple of reunions. I told you, I think I alluded to that earlier. Since I've been at Res Radio, KPRI, now KPRI, we did a couple of weekends. One of them was in 2015.
This is the Talking Archive. We are in conversation with John Fox, radio DJ, as well as the program director of KPRI, which is located at resradio.fm. That's resradio.fm. And next time, he'll talk more about the B100 reunions they've had over the years, as well as how many songs did B100 play in its heyday in rotation.